before the world explained you to yourself. People often say that humanity is recycled through incarnation with complete amnesia. They say the rulers, the archons, the demiurge, or whatever name is given to the administrative structure, erase everything so thoroughly that the being returns with nothing. But that is not entirely accurate. You do not return empty, you return compressed. There is a difference. A consciousness entering a human body cannot arrive through an infant nervous system carrying full conscious access to every life, every death, every language, every attachment, every trauma, every world, and every form it has ever occupied. The body could not contain that spectrum. The infant would not be able to enter infancy. It would not need its mother. It would not depend upon its father. It would not slowly learn movement, language, environment, relationship, consequence, or survival. A baby born with complete operative memory would no longer be entering the human cycle as a baby. It would break the sequence through which embodied life develops. So the narrowing of memory is not by itself proof that creation is defective. It is part of the design of embodiment. The error begins when a necessary compression is mistaken for total erasure. The deeper memory remains. The frequency remains. The continuity of being remains. What changes is the amount of that memory the developing body can translate into conscious awareness. This is why children are intuitive before they are educated out of intuition. Before they can speak, they respond to atmosphere, presence, movement, emotion, and layers of reality adults no longer notice. As toddlers, everything remains possible. They have not yet been told what cannot exist. They have not yet been taught what is imaginary. They have not yet been given the approved limits of reality. Their imagination does not merely entertain them. It reveals how open the field still is before interpretation hardens around it. Then the installation begins. The family gives the child a name and tells the child who they are. Religion gives the child a god and tells the child where authority lives. Education defines intelligence and teaches which forms of knowledge are permitted. Media supplies images before imagination has finished forming its own. Culture teaches what is normal. Fear teaches what must not be questioned. Government teaches position. Finance teaches value. Medicine teaches the body through institutional language. Identity is assembled layer by layer. The child is not empty. The child is open. And the system rushes to occupy that openness. This is the mechanism most teachings miss. The rulers do not need to destroy the entire memory spectrum. They only need to fill the accessible layer before the deeper memory becomes conscious. The being enters through limitation. The system turns limitation into dependence. The child begins with compressed access. The world fills the compression with names, loyalties, fears, gods, expectations, obligations, and inherited explanations. Eventually, the person mistakes everything installed upon them for what they are. This is why remembering does not always begin as a vision of another lifetime. It often begins as recognition. You encounter something and know it before you can explain why. You hear a teaching and feel the distortion beneath it. You recognize a structure no one formally taught you. You resist an authority everyone else accepts. You see through a belief before you possess the language to dismantle it. That is memory moving through frequency before it becomes recollection. The memory was never completely removed. It was buried beneath interpretation. This is also why every belief system must begin early. The child must be taught what the light means before encountering it. The child must be taught which beings are holy, which beings are evil, which authority must be obeyed, which name must be called, which gate must be entered, which savior must be followed. The conditioning for death begins long before death. It begins when the child is told what reality is before the child has finished experiencing reality directly. Then the same symbols return later through dreams, visions, altered states, and the transition beyond the body. The familiar becomes trusted, the impressive becomes authoritative, the powerful becomes divine, the unknown becomes frightening, and the person follows what was installed. This is why so many teachings about escape fail. They teach routes, they teach names, they teach gates, they teach entities, they teach lights to avoid and lights to enter. But there is no permanent map of the other side. The landscape is responsive. It changes according to frequency, expectation, identity, fear, attachment, and recognition. A fixed map can become another control mechanism. Follow this road, enter this gate, repeat this name, trust this being, wait for this guide. But sovereignty does not require a map. Sovereignty is the map. It is not a statement. It is not an affirmation. It is not a tone of voice. It is not saying, I am sovereign, while fear still determines every choice. Sovereignty is a frequency established before death. It is the unbroken recognition of what you are beneath every identity, belief, role, body, memory, God form, and authority placed before you. When that frequency is established, it is carried through every threshold. No display of power can replace it. No familiar face can override it. No promise can purchase it. No threat can remove it. No entity can claim jurisdiction merely because it is larger, older, brighter, or more capable. Power is not authority. Appearance is not origin. Recognition is not obedience. A sovereign being moves through the structure because the structure cannot establish ownership over what no longer identifies with it. The exit is not found after death. It is formed here. Every time you identify the voice installed over your own signal, you strengthen it. Every time you refuse false authority, you strengthen it. Every time you observe fear without surrendering position, you strengthen it. Every time you distinguish direct recognition from inherited belief, you strengthen it. Every time you remain at the center while the poles move around you, you strengthen it. Eventually, sovereignty is no longer something you practice. It is the frequency through which you exist, and once full continuity is restored, the administered cycle loses its claim. A truly sovereign being does not choose to return to the same enclosure. There is no unfinished lesson being held over it, no punishment calling it back, no false contract, no debt, no authority waiting to assign another identity. The being returns to its own current within source. From there, movement is no longer reincarnation through compulsion. It is choice without enclosure. Planet, system, universe, timeline, form, or no form at all. Everything becomes available because the being is no longer choosing from inside a reality whose boundaries were hidden. That is what humanity has been missing. You were never empty, you were compressed, you were never without memory, you were taught not to recognize its language, you were never created by the identities installed upon you. They arrived afterward. Before the world explained you to yourself, you were already there.